Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Psycho, and I'm going to be doing a review over Season 6, Episode 4 of The Walking Dead called Here's Not Here. In my opinion, this episode was really good. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to say that this episode was slow paced and that it just did not have that much action in it, but you have to realize to gain character development and get invested with characters, we have to have these storylines. And I don't know if I would definitely call it slow. I mean, there were points in it that was slow, but it's all core. It's all important to developing the plot and the character. So if you were to compare Rick into season 1, just imagine if we had no storytelling from him at all. No one would care about him, which is why we need things like this. And I actually really enjoyed this storyline. Throughout the whole episode, we saw tons of philosophy, tons of moral ideas, and at the start, we saw sort of crazy Morgan, as you would call him, where he's just going crazy on people. He's just killing zombies left and right, burning their bodies, and I thought that was very interesting. I liked those scenes because it showed a sort of survivalist viewpoint with Morgan. I also liked some of the walker kills, especially when he was like hitting them with the butt of his gun, and then there was the flaming walker we saw, and then I want to mention the two guys that were chasing him in the woods. That was a pretty crazy scene where he's waiting on them around the tree and he stabs that one guy right in the throat with it and then chokes the other guy to death with his hands. That was sort of like you almost saw the bad guy in Morgan, and he definitely seemed like the bad guy. If we wouldn't have known him before this episode, you would think Morgan was like the governor or Gareth or somebody. But since we had seen him already, we realized that deep down he can be a good person. Then we get on to the scene with the goat and Eastman where he finally meets up with him. Eastman tries to give him a chance and he just doesn't want to listen. And finally, I want to mention this point where Eastman says sorry to Morgan and knocks him out. And I actually noticed that this was a callback to episode 2 called JSS where Morgan knocks the wolf out. I thought that was very interesting as well. I really like the philosophy and ideas behind there being an open door and Morgan walking through it so many times and still not getting any rewards out of it, to where he either just wants to sit in the doorway or not go through it at all. And I love the idea of the cell door being unlocked the whole time because it sort of represented that door being open and all he had to do was walk through it. And once again, where Morgan, we thought he was going to change in that one scene where he ended up fighting Eastman. And I was actually sort of surprised because everybody thought he was going to change. Of course, then we get to see more interaction between Eastman and Morgan, and I really like this one-on-one character storytelling because it shows how their ideas and thoughts develop as they become closer and closer to each other and start to tell stories. I thought John Carroll Lynch did an excellent job as Eastman. I just want to give him props because there's some characters out there and they're hard to play. You have to get the perfect actor to play the character, and I thought he did it very well. It seemed like Morgan was sort of his apprentice who was lost in the darkness, and Eastman came out to just save him. I also really enjoyed Eastman's story about how he was a forensic psychiatrist and how he would interview all of these prison inmates. I think it was around 875, and he said there was only one person that he knew deep down there was no help for, and that he was pure evil. And that man was Crichton Dallas, I'm not sure which, but he talked about him and how he had built a cell in his house, which that's one of the things Morgan asked him what that cell was for, and that's where he explained it was for that man, and then he wanted to take him in there and starve him to death. Eastman was the only person that could see through this guy. He could see who he really was deep down. He was manipulative, and Eastman saw that in him. And when I heard that story, I thought of Carol. When Morgan meets Carol, I see Eastman and Morgan realizing who Carol is. Carol, I'm not saying Carol is evil, but he sees how Carol can be manipulative. And I really like Carol, don't get me wrong, but he's seeing through her and sees what she does. And that definitely gave me a throwback because I remember in the season premiere of season 6, it's where Morgan's talking to Carol and you realize that Morgan knows who she is and she just plays it off. And of course Carol's not pure evil, we all know that, but it just reminded me of that story Eastman told. Just going further into Eastman's story, it talked about how Eastman could see who that guy really was, and then one day he just punched him right in the face and was going for the kill. And then the guy got put in jail for a while. And then he broke out because he had his connections because of him being so manipulative, and then came back home and killed Eastman's wife, his daughter, and his son, and then turned himself in. And this story reminds me of I Saw the Devil. It really does. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a great movie, but for the people that have seen it, you'll get my reference. And like, this is just one of the worst things you can do to somebody. You kill their family, and then you leave them there by themselves with nothing. They have nothing to look for. Eastman wanted to get this guy back, and of course, he preached throughout every life is precious, and he said that to Morgan over and over. And then at the end, we finally see that he actually did starve Eastman, and I think it was for 46 days, and I definitely don't blame him. I don't think he deserved any sort of mercy, but Morgan realized that he sort of broke his code, but that code was developed after he did that. So he developed the Aikido code. He had the Aikido code after that. And just to go on about the Aikido code, I don't know if I'm saying it, is it Aikido or Aikido? Either way, I just think this is really interesting about how all life is precious. Of course, we can see that's where Morgan gets his philosophy and his code from this guy. You can tell that he adopts a lot of his philosophy from Eastman, and I really respect that because you understand Eastman's story and what he's gone through, so Morgan definitely develops that from him. Just to mention a few other things, I want to talk about the part where Eastman goes out and tells Morgan to protect his goat called Tabitha. And of course you hear the goat screaming and Morgan goes out there to save it. And he sees like the wedding ring on one of the walkers' necks hanging down. And he sees that this guy was a person, but he knows he has to kill them. And you can see like the sort of the edges of the screen start to blur out and you're thinking, is he going to go crazy again and turn? But he just takes the zombies out. I've got to mention, these walker kills were really cool, especially the one where he slams the walker onto the stool and it goes straight through their head. That was pretty crazy. Another thing I want to mention is how Morgan talked about how he had to clear. He had to clear people, he had to clear walkers, he had to clear everything around him because everything around him dies. And I think he gets this idea from how his wife and his son died. He couldn't protect his wife, he couldn't protect his son from his own wife, and he just realizes that everything around him dies. He sort of develops a hopeless idea of everything around him dies, that's just how it's going to be, and he has to clear everyone away from him. Just to go on a little further, I want to mention the sad death of Eastman. He will forever be known to me as Zen Master Sensei Cheesemaker. But as you can see, he saw potential in Morgan. He saw that, and that's why he sacrificed his life, because he knew Morgan had potential, and I think he knew that from the start. He just wanted to give him a chance and let it develop. And I just thought he was such a great character. Once again, props to John Carroll Lynch. He did a fantastic acting job. And also, I want to mention the sad death of the goat, Tabitha. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no, we got horses, we got turtles dying, we got goats dying. I can't take this. But, on a serious note, that was pretty sad. Then at the end, we see why Morgan doesn't like guns. I think this is one of the multiple reasons of why he doesn't like guns. And it's because Eastman mentions how he has a gun in his lockbox and that he's ready to go. And I think that Morgan actually shoots him. It just didn't show that it implied it. And I think that's the reason why Morgan doesn't do well with guns. And also, you know, his wife, how he couldn't shoot his wife. And of how he feels that every life is precious and he doesn't want to kill them. That's another reason. But I think that's another stackable reason of why he doesn't like guns. Just to mention one more thing, I really enjoyed the ending. I really loved that part where Morgan's like, that's my full story, I've told it all to you. And then the wolf, of course, I was sort of expecting it already, but he pretends to not even care. He was like, I was going to raid this place just so I could help myself out. As you can see here, you wonder why I'm shaking and I have a fever. And then he was like, if I'm any better, if I can help myself, I will kill you. I will kill you right now. And that part was just sort of very intense for me. And you could see that person Eastman was talking about, the person that there's no hope for, the pure evil person. And that was the wolf right there. And you could see that in my opinion. And when Morgan just leaves him down in there, I get sort of worried because you never know. This could be a future cause of another attack on Alexandria, and he might get out somehow, because you saw how Morgan almost escaped from Eastman when he got back. So you never know, when he's in that crazy state like a wolf is, I don't think that he can be redeemed. I just really don't. A person like that is just too psychotic for anything, for any sort of redemption. But as always, guys, I want to end this because I know it's been pretty long. I really appreciate you guys watching because it honestly means a lot. I love to talk about this. And if you did enjoy the episode and this review, hit me with a comment and hit me with a like below. If you want to talk about it in the comments, that'd be really cool because I love to discuss the show with you guys. But as always, thank you for watching. Peace out.